maybe I'll stop by the grocery on the home and get another hey. Are you even paying attention to me right now?
My partner and I talk about how having ADHD is like living in a house that has no lights in it. And you can get on medication, and that's like getting a flashlight and pointing it directly at the thing that you need to see. But it's not the same as living in a house that has lights. That's never going to happen for you. The alternative is you can just learn to live in a house that doesn't have lights in it. And that's hard as fuck. And you're never going to be able to accomplish the same things that a person who has a house that has lights in it can accomplish. But that's fine. And not one way of dealing with it is better than the other. It's just different ways of dealing with the same problem.
Here's a lesson on why you should never talk to the police, even if you're innocent. In 2017, a man named Warren was detained by police on suspicion of a crime, but he knew he was innocent, so he agreed to talk to the police and clear things up. Once in the interrogation room, he realized police weren't hearing him out and was convinced that he was guilty. He finally said, "I know that I didn't do it, so why don't you just give me a lawyer, dog, because this is not what's up." Exact quote. And here's the secret. Cops hate that phrase because once you mention a lawyer, they're legally required to end the interrogation and no longer speak to you without a lawyer present. But the cops ignored his request and continued to interrogate him and are now using those statements to convict him. And why is the court claiming that Warren's rights weren't violated in this instance? The counsel defended in 100% seriousness that Warren was asking for a lawyer dog and not an actual lawyer. And the judge actually declared that it wasn't in violation of his rights and the cops didn't do anything wrong, but not because of the lawyer dog thing, but because Warren's request for a lawyer was too ambiguous and not entirely clear that he wanted a lawyer, but he was just simply stating that he didn't do it. How is this statement not entirely clear that he wants a lawyer? I don't know.
We Africans don't claim you. You are brainwashed with the stupid Western ideology. No African has they, them, if they aren't royal. So actually, I am royal. I don't tell a lot of people these things because I don't want them using me for my money, but I decided to reach out to TikTok for help. So I'm actually a Nigerian prince, and my account has been frozen, and I just need someone to send me a small sum of $1,000, and I will reward you graciously with $1 million.
A fascist worked out today. Have you? A fascist also didn't wear a mask today. And I bet you haven't either. This whole thing with equating fitness to morality is actually so wild and also very predictable, because the amount of people that think that they are leftists are just people that connect with some leftist politics but don't actually put anything into practice. This isn't scripted. I'm just sort of talking right now because I'm really frustrated. People were saying that there was that thread on Twitter that was like, you need to work out in order to fight fascists. And leftists need to start hitting the gym. And people were rightly being like, okay, like, where do disabled people that can't do that specifically fall into this? Also, like, does your sense of fitness and health include COVID protections, COVID consciousness, COVID practices, right? Silence on that front. Or just literally attacking disabled people for raising questions about where we fit into all of this. Because people love to be fake disability advocates when instead it's an individualist mindset. And the focus is on maybe disability rights, but not actual disability justice. And there's a difference between those two. And then I'm just rambling, but this whole thing about health being a signifier of morality or politics, when I guarantee you are also probably disabled because you've had COVID at least one time, possibly more than 2 times. And you don't factor that in because it's just individualist thinking. It's all fake. It's all fake. And we're just supposed to play along with it. We're just supposed to play along with it, I guess. But none of you actually care about disabled people, so. Okay.
I just don't think women should be president. Like, I wouldn't trust me with the nuclear codes. My hormones make me absolutely crazy. I feel more comfortable in the kitchen than in an office. If your man cheats on you, it's probably because you're getting fat. Feminism destroyed America. Would love to meet a girl who actually likes her girlfriends. Okay, literally what you just said is about to make me cry. I must be on my period or something. I like being objectified. I'm just built different, I guess. I hardly wear makeup. Makeup is just for girls who are insecure. Objectify me, please, I'm begging. Most women actually like to be cheated on. They're addicted to the drama.
When y'all call bell hooks a pick-me, it triggers me and sends me into orbit. A couple years ago, I feel like we were very specific about what a pick-me meant, and maybe we need to get back to that. Now that Share 7 content is on this app, a pick-me is anyone who has compassion for men. A couple years ago, a pick-me was a woman who internalized misogyny and wanted to weaponize that misogyny against other women for male validation. Let's get back to that. Bell hooks is not above critique. There are many things that she said across all of her texts that would not hold up in 2024, and that's why it's our collective responsibility to sit with what she left us and to take it further. And we're not going to be able to do that if we misconstrue her words, if we go into these books committed to misunderstanding her, and if we apply a Share 7 politic of all people to critique her with. She wrote an entire book about how we as women can show up for other women, with other women in our loving relationships with one another, across generations, all for the sake of decentering men. She says towards the end of the book, anytime I'm talking about love, I'm talking about a love ethic, I'm talking about a love politic, I'm talking about a value system rooted in being loving to yourself first, your community second, and a romantic relationship with anyone last. It's an insult to the body of work that she left us with to get on this app and refer to her as a pick-me of all things. Call her a landlord. That's enough and it's valid. Bell hooks is not above critique. There are many things that she said across all of her texts that would not hold up in 2024.
Go watch her video. She makes a lot of solid points, and I'm agreeing but expanding. Now, I love and honor Bell Hooks as one of the first feminist writers that I ever read. She helped bring me to my awakening. That being said, my best advice in reading her work is to chew the meat but spit out the bones, which means to soak up the wisdom because there's so much to be shared, but that does not mean we have to mimic her exact politic, and I do not. Political theory is ever evolving, and when you know better, you do better. And elder revolutionaries did the groundwork for us to be able to learn from not only their wisdom, but their blind spots as well. Bell specifically had a very compassion-based advocacy. She believed, and it is true, that men are also harmed under patriarchy and that they should not be ostracized or hated within feminism. But in her writing, there are a few times where she humanized men to the expense of women. Her commentary on Monica Lewinsky is an example of that. This taught me that while compassion is a powerful tool in its own right, it cannot be my only tool. Anger, passion, skepticism, and even violence is also in my tool belt if it means protecting myself and other women. But it is only through the awakening that Bell Hooks gave me that I arrived to the point where I currently am in my radical feminism. This is why it's important to encourage critical thought and analysis, especially in leftist spaces. We so often fall into trying to enforce moral or political purity, which is well-intentioned, but sometimes it does not leave room for nuance.
My kids got in an argument about Warhead's Fun Dip. Most holiday candy that comes into our house is community candy, unless there is only one of something, in which case the receiver gets first dibs. Now, the way I understand this went down is the Fun Dip eater asked the Fun Dip receiver if she wanted to try the Warhead's Fun Dip with her, to which the receiver replied, "No, I'm eating bubblegum," and left the room. The Fun Dip eater interpreted the response as, "No, I don't want it," so she ate it. The other kid comes back to the room, realizes what happens, and gets mad, loudly, which happens to be when I was made aware of the situation. So I stepped in to mediate, because everything the eater was saying was making the receiver more angry, and I realized why. I said, "Pause. Do the two of you know the difference between an excuse and a reason?" And they thought about it and shared some of their ideas. I said, "The way I see it is an excuse is meant to excuse yourself from taking accountability for your actions, whereas a reason provides context for the mistake you made and usually also comes with an apology. It's the difference between saying, 'I'm sorry I ate your candy, I misunderstood you,' and, 'Well, if you said something different, I wouldn't have eaten your candy.'" Then I said to the Fun Dip eater, "I know you didn't eat the Fun Dip maliciously, but the way you're responding to your sister makes it sound like it's her fault that you did. You can't uneat the Fun Dip, but you can care about your sister's feelings." By the end of our conversation, the energy in the room had shifted, and then they were able to have a really productive conversation. Moral of the story is that Fun Dip isn't always fun, and also a shift in perspective can really help communication. Okay, bye.
The movie WALL-E is ableist because the people who were making it weren't thinking about the implications of what they were portraying. And it's really unfortunate because that movie is really good and has a really interesting critique of capitalism, but the ableist undertones hold it all back. So let's establish some facts. Every human in the movie WALL-E uses a self-driving wheelchair. These hover chairs are designed and meant explicitly to make the axiom more accessible to disabled people. We know this because this is established in the opening scene of the movie. When WALL-E is going home at the end of his day when we first see him, the first dialogue in the movie is him walking past these advertisements for the axiom. You know, it's like, "There's too much garbage in your place, there's plenty of space out in space." And these advertisements all show everybody standing around, walking around on the axiom, right? And then at the end it says, "And with our all-access hover chairs, even grandma can join in on the fun. There's no need to walk." And then the ad ends with like, "The axiom, putting the star in executive starliners." And the grandma pulls up like on the Lido deck with a beach ball and throws it at the people who are standing. And that "there's no need to walk" is meant to be like foreshadowing and haunting and spooky because the people on the ship won't be walking. Boo! And so then, of course, right, as I said, when you get to the axiom, you find out that every single human uses these wheelchairs to get around. So all of humanity in the future in WALL-E is like every single negative stereotype about people who are disabled. It's based on these ideas that disabled people are faking it or that it's their fault that they're disabled, right? Like every single human being in the movie is disabled because they choose to be. And at the end, they solve it by deciding to walk. Every single human being, abled or disabled, should be insulted by the implication that if given the choice, people would choose to not walk. And apart from that, you're portraying disability in a way that is completely divorced from how it works in real life. Like again, everybody in WALL-E is disabled by choice. That's not how it is in real life. And because everybody is disabled, nobody can really be marginalized for being disabled. And on the flip side, nobody's disability is the result of marginalization. And also because the axiom is fully accessible, they don't face any like physical barriers to getting anywhere or doing anything. Or if they do face a barrier to doing something, it's not because of inaccessibility, it's due to their own laziness. And part of the reason for this is that they didn't think about the fact that they were making a movie about disability. They weren't thinking of every single human being as a disabled person. They were thinking every single human being is a baby. They talk about this on the audio commentary and on the bonus features on the DVD and on the Criterion release. If they knew that they were making a movie about disability, they could have had a great twist where at the end of the movie you find out that there's all of these parts of the axiom that nobody goes to because they are inaccessible. That doesn't happen because they didn't know that they were making a movie about disability. And all of this is really unfortunate because I just had to make a 2.5 minute long video talking about what this movie gets wrong instead of talking about what it gets right. I'm not saying I love the movie, but in a way I admire WALL-E. I cannot ever think of another example of a movie that portrays a capitalist utopia. WALL-E portrays the ideal end goal for capitalism. Nobody works, everybody just consumes. And nobody is buying cool or interesting things or doing cool or interesting things. It's all bullshit. They have one jumpsuit they can have in different colors. They drink food in a cup. They hit golf balls into space. They play tennis. They don't do anything fun or interesting. They don't seem to have movies or shows or books or music. It's kind of like how the movie Titanic portrays the upper classes, right? Like boring and miserable and unfulfilling. What's really interesting is that the lives of people on the Axiom are like a dark reflection of Wally's life. Wally is the only thing in the entire world that is doing anything that matters at all. He's the only one doing anything that's important, that matters, that has any consequence at all. And what is it? Picking up trash. Wally, day in, day out, alone, picking up trash, slowly cleaning up the entire world. Like the lives of the people on the Axiom, it's monotonous and boring and tedious and isolating. Wally is isolated because he's alone on the earth. Everybody on the Axiom is surrounded by other people, but they are isolated from each other. Capitalism isolates you by making you alone in your labor, and capitalism isolates you by disconnecting you from each other when you are sharing physical space. They were cooking. They were in the studio really cooking. They were really working this movie up. It was so good. Roger Deakins consulted on the animation. It's one of like 5 3D animated movies that actually looks good. They threw one bad ingredient in and ruined the entire soup.
If dropping Hiroshima-level explosives on Gaza hasn't eradicated Hamas, then either Hamas has superpowers or they were never the real target. BBC News says, how do you cater for a wedding with 600 guests? How do you colonize India and then not know the answer to this question? Here's what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch looks like layered over the USA. Oh my god, nice. Here's what the Great USA Garbage Patch looks like layered over the Pacific Ocean. This is an Onion headline. It says, trans teen hatches nefarious plot to undergo years of medical treatments and counseling to win at swimming. Also the Onion, Florida Board of Education removes Africa from world maps. Bully suspended for verbally harassing his peers argues he was just pushing boundaries with his comedy. Age is just a number, says man who does not feel the same about weight. And this one is finally a real headline, not satire. Gen Z Americans are more likely to be LGBTQ+ than Republican. The gay agenda's working! Y'all, because I post about politics, I'm in a constant battle with this app. I'll post about funny little animals and get over 1 million views, and then I'll post about Gaza and get less than 30,000, and a video won't be allowed on the For You page. When you see political content creators you like, remember to follow them, especially because watermelon content is so suppressed right now. Otherwise, I might never see you again. Bye!
Shouldn't be dating a woman that's more than 2/3 of his body weight. A woman should feel smaller.
We are live once again with America's favorite game show, Finish That Douchebag's Phrase. I'm your host, Chet Almanac, and today's contestant is back after a long stint in the hospital. Everybody please welcome a happy and healthy Jason. How you doing, Jason? Thanks for the warm welcome, Chet. My doctor has strongly advised me never to return to this show, so hopefully nothing bad happens today. Oh, Jason, I'm sure you're fine. What are the odds of that happening to you a third time? Now, as always, I'm going to show Jason a video clip of a douchebag, and he just has to tell me how it ends. Are you ready, Jason? Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this. Okay, let's not waste any more time. Let's roll the clip.
I shouldn't be dating a woman that's more than 2/3 of his body weight. A woman should feel smaller.
Okay, Jason, what does that douchebag say next? Maybe he thinks that he'll look less dominant, or he doesn't find it attractive. I don't know, but I'm scared. Okay, Jason has locked in his answer. Audience, make sure to pause and place your guesses below. Now let's see if he's right.
Guy shouldn't be dating a woman that's more than 2/3 of his body weight. A woman should feel smaller. She needs to feel like he could kill her, but he's not gonna. If I'm holding a girl and subconsciously she knows that if I wanted to, I could pick her up and throw her into the wall.
Holy fuck. Guys, can we call whoever he's in a relationship with and make sure they're safe, please? Anyway, I'm sorry, Jason. Motherfucker. Guys, can we call the medical team in here, please? And just like that, we are out of time. As always, I'm Chet Almanac with Finish That Douchebag's Phrase, and please stop sending videos like that. Our insurance premiums are through the fucking roof.
Today, the country music industry is dominated by white people, but it wouldn't even exist if it weren't for black people. It all started with the banjo, brought to America by enslaved people from West Africa who made the instrument using gourds. It became central to the music of enslaved people in the American South. Enslaved people taught white people how to play the instrument, and eventually they appropriated it and started using it in minstrel shows while wearing blackface. The instrument became so popular through minstrelsy, it led to an entire genre called hillbilly music, later known as country music. Hillbilly music artists drew their inspiration from black hymns, field songs, and other spirituals that enslaved people sang. They collaborated with black artists who wrote lyrics and played a wide variety of instruments from the banjo to the harmonica. It was actually very multicultural and collaborative. But once hillbilly music went mainstream in the 1920s, record labels began removing black performers from the spotlight, restricting them from performances and festivals, and refusing to credit them on songs they wrote and contributed to. Through intentional erasure and a finely crafted story, they marketed the entire genre as a sound for the white rural South, differentiating it from jazz and blues, which were positioned as uniquely black, despite the fact that they were using many of the same instruments, artists, and inspirations. Today, the country music industry remains largely dominated by white people, and while black country artists have made progress in recent years, many continue to be criticized, excluded, and overlooked. But country music, like all music in America, has always been ours.
Hey y'all, what's up? It's Friday, so I'm gonna keep it black, but I'm gonna keep it brief. You know, when we say black history is American history, we don't just mean the fun black stuff that has shaped American history. We also mean that the bad white stuff America has done to black people is also American history, and y'all don't like that. Y'all just like to tell the story that y'all want to tell, which is why y'all let a certain group of people tell the story they want to tell to 124 million viewers on that commercial last week during the Super Bowl. Now, do we want all fathers to be able to play football with their kids at home, safe and sound? Absolutely. But I thought y'all said politics has no place in sports. Oops, did I say the quiet part out loud? So how is it that whoever is over the Super Bowl commercial selection committee let that chopper sing with zero backlash, but Colin Kaepernick gets blackballed for taking a knee? Yeah, I'm taking it there. Because contrary to popular belief, sports and politics have had a very intimate relationship for decades now. Sporting events, garnering mass audiences, used as modalities to represent the culture of entire countries, have been used as stages to make political messages for some time now. Black athletes have used it time and time again. Bill Russell and the four other black boys from the Celtics in 1961 who refused to play Kentucky after they were refused service at a local restaurant. Billie Jean King, who started boycotting tennis matches in 1970 because they were awarding the men $12,500 for winning matches and only awarding women $1,500. What? Tommy Lee and John Carlos putting up the fist at the 1968 Olympics, but it's not just the blacks. In fact, before us, the Olympics in particular were used heavily by non-black countries to make political statements. Hitler tried to use the Olympics in 1936 to propagate the idea of the Aryan race. And y'all was very glad when 14 black athletes shot down that theory, led by record-breaking athlete Jesse Owens. The U.S. boycotted the 1980 Olympics because of the Cold War and the fact that Russia was invading Afghanistan. In fact, so many countries either withdrew from the games or others weren't even invited for decades because of one war or another, because participation in the games came to be viewed as the status of your nation's political legitimacy. The national anthem, a political symbol that was thrust upon American sports scores in a cult-like fashion after a bombing in Chicago during World War I. The Chicago Cubs had a game the next day and thought it would be nice to sing a little ditty to boost morale, and everybody else just took it and ran with it. But y'all mad they let Andre Day sing the Black National Anthem during Black History Month? So it's cool when they do it. It's a problem when I do it. And I know we all know why, but I just go ahead and say it anyway. It's because more often than not, the people that are setting the rules of decorum or the guidelines, policies, and even laws in this country are doing so with the understanding that it's really only the undesirables who have to follow the rules. You know, the blacks, the queers, the women. In savvily orchestrating their 500-year head start, they were able to ensure the complete monopoly on who makes the rules, who has to follow them, and what happens when undesirables don't. And not only is there some mean hypocrisy at play here, it's also just flat out a historical demand that we keep politics out of sports, like black people and others don't have a long-standing tradition in doing so. Muhammad Ali refused to enter the draft during the Vietnam War and said it was because he wasn't going 10,000 miles from home to help murder and burn another poor nation simply to continue the domination of white slave masters of the darker people the world over. Well, he said it, not me. And for this, he was jailed, fined, and barred from boxing for years. But draft-dodging Donald Trump became president. Just recently, the Democratic Republic of the Congo's national football team brought attention to the atrocities taking place in their country with a silent protest before their match in the Africa Cup, which is just about as big an event as the Super Bowl. And there was white backlash every step of the way. But these dancing goalposts just don't appear in sports. You'd be surprised, but then again, maybe not, at how many everyday rules, requirements, and systems and whole institutions are put into place in this country to simply keep black folks aggressive, oppressed, and right where they want us. Getting a college degree from a public college or university used to cost exactly zero monies. It was free 99. And as I've told you before, that's Ronald Reagan's fault. But in case you forgot, when he became governor in California during the civil rights movement, our activating ancestors were rightfully raising hell as students on college campuses everywhere. And Reagan was concerned with the rise of an educated class of Negroes So he created tuition requirements to make college inaccessible to the working class. He said, and I quote, "It was his way to get rid of undesirables. So those who are there to carry signs and not to study might think twice." And by the time he became president, nearly all the formerly public schools were charging tuition. So hey, white working class, those of you currently mad at black kids that are in school taking it and getting the scholarships you wish you qualified for, you have Ronald Reagan to thank for making it cost money in the first place. A white lady on Fox News told LeBron James to shut up and dribble because she didn't want political advice from someone who gets paid to dribble a ball. Well, let me tell you something, Sue Ellen. You on your high horses could learn a thing or two from these athletes. These people are more connected to the people and qualified to speak on their behalf because they might have escaped the lower class by way of their talent, but there's no escaping the everyday laws, policies, and rules of decorum designed to fail the people that surround them every day. Goodness gracious, I say.
Did your jawline change, or is it just the angle? Yeah, my face actually changed a lot on testosterone, and so did the rest of my body. This is primarily due to something called fat redistribution, which basically means that when you're on testosterone, you start collecting fat in a more male pattern. We will be talking about weight loss and weight gain in this video, so if that's not your cup of tea, just full warning you. Now, it's important to note that fat redistribution is usually a longer change because it applies to the new fat you collect in your body. The old fat is going to stay where it is. So, when I started T, I purposely gained weight so that the new fat could fill in my waist area, stomach, etc. to make me have less of an hourglass shape, and then I lost weight so that the fat from my thighs and my hips would lessen. This is why fat redistribution on testosterone is often a change that happens over a longer period of time. As you lose fat and then gain it back throughout the years, your body will look more masculine. Additionally, testosterone makes you gain more muscle, especially if you start working out. This can help a lot with building a more masculine physique. I don't have any good reference photos of my body pre-T since I usually wore baggy clothes, but here's one mirror selfie of me pre-T where you can kind of tell I was carrying more weight in my hips. Now here's me post-T where you can tell my body is more or less straight up and down. Here's also a side-by-side of my face where you can see I'm a lot more square than I used to be. I hope this helps, and let me know what changes on T you're most looking forward to.
Bruh, I don't know funny shit, but who the fuck is Bizon and Motel? I'm not gonna lie, I was about to crash out on you because I thought you were being like purposefully ignorant or being funny or something. But then I realized this is someone from outside of the conversation attempting to join in. And I'm loving that you're trying to actually take in information in your comment section. This is really good. Very short answer to your question is that they're two Palestinian journalists. Two of many journalists that have had to endure hell over the past few months. They're both very heavily active on social media and they disseminate news happening in Gaza and in Palestine as a whole. And the most that you can really learn about the genocide in Gaza can be learned from these two people. More so than any of us on TikTok. So again, I thank you, man, for joining in on the conversation and I hope you stay. Because we need as many eyes on this as possible. Freedom, boys, in Palestine.